Very good morning to everyone. This is Dr. Jyoti Basu. Uh, Now we are going to discuss about the topic on objectives of teaching English. So before entering into the topic, we have to look into the points that what do we mean by objective. So the objective is nothing but something that you plan to do or achieve. For example, if you want to achieve anything or if you want to get anything, you have certain plan. So based on that, we have to look into the objective. So this is a proper planning. When you have the proper planning, then only you are going to achieve the objective. So and one more point on this objective is it is talking about the a thing which you aimed at. Exactly I want to achieve that, which is nothing but goal. So this is the objective. So when coming to the exact topic, objectives of teaching English. So as we know the importance of language in our day to day life. So based on that, especially in the teaching process, we required English as a very important one. So here we have to look into the objectives of teaching English. Why we have to teach to the students English language. So the teaching of English language should be from primary, secondary level. So that is going to be helpful in future as well as in their life. So as we all in India, India is a multilingual country and every child in our society grows up with at least two languages. So India is a multilingual language, India is a multilingual country and every child in our society grows with at least two languages. So within these two languages, children learn mother tongue in a natural setting. So here the child is not going to make them to learn the mother tongue. So naturally they are going to learn, whereas coming to the second language is learned in a simulated setting. For example, we can take the classroom. So the classroom is a simulated setting which is making them to learn the second language or any other subjects. So here the first language the children are going to learn with the natural setting, whereas coming to the second language the children are going to learn in a simulated setting. So the classroom is considered as the simulated setting. So the classroom is a platform to learn so many things. So entering into the objectives of teaching English. So the first objective is talking about to familiarize people with the spoken and written forms of English. So first of all we have to make the student to familiar with the spoken and written forms of English. First of all we have to make them familiarize with the English language. And the next objective is talking about to make learning an enjoyable activity. So in general the student feel that the learning mother tongue is very comfortable to learn, whereas coming to the learning English they are feeling that the mindset is that English is a foreign language, it is a tough language. But so as a English teacher they have to make the children to learn in a enjoyable environment as well as by creating so many enjoyable activities, so that they are coming to know the importance of language as a joyful learning. They are going to learn English, they won't feel any burden, they are learning the foreign language or any other language. Next objective, to help the learners understand the language spoken by the teacher and the peer. So here when the learner is learning the language, especially the English language spoken by the teacher and the peer, first of all it should be understood by the children, then only they will know the importance, then only they will show interest to learn the language. So the as a English teacher whatever they are speaking that should be very clear to the students, and whatever they are talking with their peer group that should be very clear to the students. Next objective, to help learners read and understand simple words, sentences and passages. So at the stage of learning language, English language, first of all they should understand with the simple words. The language teaching should start from simple words, next entering into the sentences and passages, so that they are coming to know the importance of language, and learning English is not a tough task to learn. So that should be start from simple words, sentences and the passages. And the next objective, to help learners trace and write words, phrases, sentences and paragraphs, so that while making the practice the learner will come to know how to write the word and how to write the phrases. Based on this how they are going to frame the sentences and paragraphs. So this is making the learner to learn in a joyful learning, especially talking about the activity based. And the next objective, to learn learners speak English words and sentences with the teacher. Whatever the word they learn in the class, that should be in the form of spoken English. So, whenever they have then a chance to speak out, they have to utilize that words in a proper way. So, the learning the language is possible only through practice. So, based on this we have to look into the objectives. To get the perfection with the objectives, even the learner and the teacher are going to face so many problems. So, by looking into the learning of English language, the problems, major problem of learning English lies with our own mindset. So, as we have the mindset that English is a foreign language, it is a tough language. So, just we are bounded only to the mother tongue. So, even mother tongue does not require proper practice or training, but English language is required in the, and it is going to be taught to the students in the classrooms. So, this was the major problem, only the mindset is not making the learner or the children to learn the English language. Next problem is comparing English with the mother tongue. So, as we know the importance of English language, and as without practice they are learning the mother tongue. So, they are comparing these English language with their mother tongue. So, they are finding difficult in learning the language with comparing to the mother tongue. Next problem is sometimes avoiding the use of mother tongue totally in their English class. So, in general that problem is with, if the teacher is communicating the whole class in English, automatically the students are going to feel difficult, because they are not helping the help of mother tongue. So, that they are feeling that we are not in a position to understand, we are not in a position to cope up with the language. These phobia, especially the phobia of learning English language, making them very difficult. The next problem is talking about English language has a phonology which is marked differently from that of most Indian languages. For example, there is a word character. So, here the spelling of character is CHARACTER, but the spelling you have written in initially that is CH, but the pronunciation you are talking is different. So, based on that, sometimes using these words they are feeling that learning English language is a difficult. So, these are the different problems of learning as well as teaching to the English language. Next, based on this we have to look into make the student to develop the language skill. So, when the child is in a position to learn or develop the language skills, they should be perfect with the basic skills. Those are called as the listening skills, speaking skills, reading skills and writing skills. So, these are the four major basic skills of language known as LS or W. So, looking into this, anyone if why we are reading the textbooks, why we are reading the newspapers or why we are reading the articles. So, means here anyone who uses language will has a number of different abilities. So, here by reading the textbooks you are going to learn lot of information, by writing letters or speaking on the telephone or listening to radio. These are the different ways to learn the language or to speak the language or to write the language. So, like any other art such as swimming, driving, cycling, etc., language learning is also a skill. So, here once they want the intention or they have the intention to learn the language, definitely it is going to become as a skill. So, here the skill word is talking about it can be acquired through practice, which makes as a habit. If you practiced regularly speaking of English language or speaking of any other languages, it is making like habit. So, each and every day we have to use the English language importance wherever it is required and what are the terms you are using in day to day life. So, here for example, we are going for the swimming. So, if you had making it as a skillful, swimming is a skillful activity or driving is a skillful activity, even cycling. So, like this language is also a skill. So, skill can be acquired through practice, which makes as a habit. So, the regular practice is required even for swimming, driving and cycling, whereas coming to the language also the regular practice. If you are learning the language, not only the sufficient, but you have to practice whatever you learn, then only it is going to become as a perfect with the language. So, here we are categorizing the language skills into receptive, the other form is a passive form of language skills. The next one is productive or the active form of language skills. So, here we have, as we discussed, the listening, reading, speaking and writing. These are the 4 basic skills. Looking into this, you are listening to something, or you are listening to radio or music or TV or any other speeches, or you are reading so many books, articles and journals. These are considered as the receptive skills or the passive skills. Especially the listening and reading are called as the receptive or the passive skills. Whereas coming to the productive skills, speaking and writing. So, the speaking and writing you are producing in the form of words, which is speaking skill. Whatever you learn, whatever you listen or whatever you read, just you are showing in the form of writing part. So, whatever you learn the language, you are representing or producing in the form of words, that is speaking, or which may be in the form of writing part. So, these are the 2 areas which we have to focus, receptive skills and the productive skills. The receptive skills are considered as listening and reading, and next productive skills are speaking and writing. So, here you are listening and you are reading. So, coming to the listening with understanding, whatever you are listening to the speaker, you have to understand, and next whatever you are reading, then that should be understand. Next, if you are listen in a proper way, then only you have the ability to speak out. And the next receptive skill, reading. Once you are thorough with the subject, or once you are thorough with the topic, then only you are going to represent that one in the form of writing, or which may be in the form of essay writing or any other, or representing any article. So, these are the 2 language categorization of language skills by considering with L, S or W. So, coming to the learning process. So, in the language we are looking into the listening process. So, it is a process. So, you are not going to break the listening in one stage. So, it is like continuous process. Once the individual or the human being has the ability to learn more and more. So, to learning is making the individual to listen more and more. So, the listening is a receptive rather than the productive. First of all, what the listener has to do is, whatever the subject or whatever the speaker is going to speak out, just we have to listen with the proper understanding, listening with comprehension. Next one is listening ability can be cultivated through listening practice, both intensive and extensive. So, here as a learner or as a listener, they must have the ability to cultivate through listening practices. So, the listening practice can be done with the both intensive and the extensive. So, these are the 2 processes in the listening. Coming to the intensive listening. So, intensive listening practice by paying most attention to pronunciation, grammar and vocabulary rather than overall meaning. So, here there is a 2 process of listening, that one is intensive and extensive. Intensive listening is talking about, it is a practice, then only the learning will be done. So, the practice by paying most attention to pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary rather than overall meaning. So, to get perfection with the language, we have to focus into the how exactly the word is pronouncing. The pronunciation is very important one, where exactly it required stress, where exactly it required the pronunciation, and where we have to give stress, pause and intonation. Coming to the grammar part, once you have the thorough with the pronunciation, how we have to pronounce the word, then we are looking into the grammatical part and vocabulary part rather than the overall meaning. So, by focusing on intensive listening practice, it helps student to build a groundwork for the language acquisition. Once the individual or once the listener or once the learner want to get perfection with the language acquisition, they have to look into this intensive listening, which is talking from the root words like pronunciation, grammar and vocabulary. To speak in English with a proper pronunciation, we have to focus on the intensive listening. Coming to the next process is extensive listening. So, the extensive listening is a way to practice your English listening skill. It means listening to many different recordings, videos and interviews about the same topic. But here coming to the intensive listening, we are talking about including from the grammar, vocabulary and the pronunciation part. But here we are listening only to the whatever the recordings are there, whatever the videos and interviews, just whatever the topic you exactly you want. So, the related topic only you are going to select to listen. This type of listening is called extensive listening. Just you are not looking into the grammar part, you are not looking into the pronunciation part, only you are looking into the exact topic what you required. For that you are depending on recordings of different experts or recordings of different videos, or listening to videos, recordings, and having sometimes we have done a great interviews with the same topic experts. So, these type of listening is called as the extensive listening. So, in this listening process we are looking into the two areas, one is the input and the output. So, as we know the importance of language, so the language will be communicated. Communication is a process which involves the participation of two, that is sender and the receiver. So, when the communication will be getting success, if there is a sender and there should be a receiver. So, in between these two we need some message. So, then only it is possible and it is understood by the receiver or the listener. If there is a gap between these two, sender and receiver, automatically there will be a communication gap. So, here the sender is giving some input, means he is going to give some message to the receiver. So, the receiver is going to receive some message from the input or the sender, this is called as the output. So, when the sender is having some message with them, then only the receiver will be in a position to listen. So, the sender process, they required input, means some message, and process. So, the input and output, it is a processing one. So, here when the subject is with us, then definitely it is going to be delivered. So, here the sender and the receiver process will be success when there will be a proper message. So, this is a simple process between sender and the receiver, which we are talking about the listening process. So, in this process can be done in two ways. So, the first process is talking about the bottom up process and the second one is talking about the top down process. So, looking into the bottom up process, for example, the listener analyze the message at the level of words, sounds and the phrases. So, here the listener is going to start or going to analyze the message from the basic level onwards, that is from the words, what is exactly the word is talking about, how the word is going to be pronounced and what phrase they used, that is bottom up process, means from words to sounds, phrases, paragraphs, like this. Coming to the top down process, for example, the listener does not totally depend on the received information. So, here they are not focusing into the words and exactly how the word pronounced and how it is how the word was framed and how the sound of the word and next phrases, just they are does not totally depending on the received information, means simply just like that they are listening to the information. So, these are the two-way processes. So, next one is we are listening to so many things and we are listening to so many words or so many speeches or videos and recordings. So, based on that there were types of listenings, especially we are talking about the 4 types of listenings. So, the first listening is talking about the casual listening. So, here the casual listening, just you are doing your own work, for example, you are busy with cooking or you are busy with reading or you are reading newspaper or something. So, few students having a habit of reading reading textbook, they used to have the headphones, means listening to music at the simultaneously they are doing their studies. Some are having just going for a walk, at that time we used to have headphones listening to music. So, here just casual we are listening, but we are not at all focusing on that song or music part, that is casual listening. We are not paying any attention towards that, just we are listening and living, that is all. Coming to the focused listening. So, especially it is talking about the classroom listening or the seminar. For example, any seminar is going on, definitely we have to focus on what exactly the speaker is going to speak out. If you are attending any international conference or if you are attending any class work, if you are with any workshop, we have to focus more on the listening part, because here your intention is, your focus is to learn something, so that you need focused listening. Next one is appreciative listening. So here we are listening to, just for the casual listening, you are listening to music or radio or songs or whatever it may be. At that time, as a human being, we have some aesthetic sense. So like that is appreciative part. So the appreciative listening, once how the poem, how the song, definitely we are looking into that, and we are in a position to express exactly the song is very nice. The poet had given the poem in a proper way. Really it is talking about the excellent point. Nearly it is talking about the nature part. So as a human being, we have such ability to appreciate, which is nothing but the aesthetic sense. So the next one is gist listening. This is other type of listening. So we are listening into workshops, seminars, attending any other programs. Just whatever the points we are interested, whatever the points we received, if anybody asked, just you attended that workshop, what are the important points? Just you are not going to take the class for 1 hour or like that, but whatever the speaker or whatever the person or whatever the resource person spoke about that particular part, you are going to make them in a gist form, very short form. So these are the different types of listenings, categorizing into 4 types. The first one is casual listening, second one is focused listening, third one appreciative listening, and the gist listening. Whereas coming to the sub skills, not only the types of listening, we have the sub skills of the listening. So the first one is decoding sounds. So we are looking into the sound. When you are getting perfection with the word, if the word is pronounced in a proper way, then only you are going to know. So the word pronunciation or any other sounds, based on that you are decoding. Based on the sound you are decoding the situation, or decoding or analyzing the situation by looking into or by hearing the sound. So this is by paying attention. So based on this decoding, you are decoding sounds, you are going to categorize or you are going to analyze the situation. Coming to the next sub skill is comprehension of structure. So here in a simple example I had given here. For example, the question is like, can I have a ride? Means here you are questioning. So can I have a ride is one type of question, whereas same question is repeated in the other form, that is I can have a ride. Okay, these are the two forms of question. By comprehending these two, you can frame one more question, that is one more structure, that the other form is have a ride with me. Means here the first and the second example both are talking about only one person, I. It is talking about only I. Whereas coming to the other form, by comprehension of the structure, have a ride with me, means here you are asking some other to have a ride with you. So here you are combining this into two person. So the first two examples are giving only I, can I have a ride, means here you are questioning, and I can have a ride. So these all indicating only the singular form which is talking about I. So whereas the other form, when you comprehend the structure, have a ride with me, means here you are giving a chance to other person by asking question like have a ride with me. So this is a one more sub skill. The next one is guessing meaning of unknown words or the phrases. So based on the unknown words or phrases, you are going to guess. This is the other sub skill of the listening. Recognizing discourse markers. So here one more example. Raju is a singular person. He is talking about he never travelled alone. So this is in a singular form. Whereas coming to the, but he never travelled alone. Raju never travelled alone. He and his friend travelled together. This is a question. So here just we have to looking into the discourse marker. The first one is talking about Raju never travelled alone. That is an example. Alone never, Raju never travelled alone. But coming to the travelling part, he is having combination or he is having one more partner. He and his friend were travelled together. So here we have to recognize the discourses. Next one is inference. So inference, looking, this is also one of the sub skill of the listening. Next one is skim or scan for specific information. So, whatever you listen or whatever the speaker spoke about that, you have to skim and scan for the specific information when it is required, where it is required. Just based on that we have to give the interpretation, or based on that you have to give the presentation or express the ideas. Next sub skill is understand ideas and information in spoken test. So, whatever the speaker is going to speak out, you have to understand what exactly the idea they want to give us and what exactly the information they want to give us. We should be in the form of spoken text. The next one is ability to differentiate the change in sounds, word, meaning and pronunciation of the sentence. So, here if you are a good listener, then only you have the ability to differentiate the change in sounds, word, meaning and the pronunciation of the word. For example, you are going to pronounce any word, for example, the word stress. So, this is a word, exactly how it should be pronounced, stress. So, then only you are coming to know how the word is and what type of sound it is making. That should be very clear when you are the good listener, listening with comprehension. And next, meaning and pronunciation of the sentences. For example, you want to command anyone, just you have to command anyone. The commanding voice should be like commanding only, that should be with the loud voice, then only they are coming to know the meaning of that one, and then they are coming to give the response for that. If you want to order anyone, that should be in the form of order, the voice should be like, the sound of the sentence should be like commanding, or it should be demand. Otherwise, if it is in a soft manner, if you are not given proper stress for that, definitely they are not going to give proper response. So, these are the different sub skills which we are looking into the listening part. So, these are the listening part, like we discussed on the types of listening and exactly how many processes, types of processes, and what we required to get the listening as a comprehension. We need the message as well as the sender and the receiver. Coming to the next one more development skill, that is speaking skill. So, especially the classroom is a convenient place for imparting information. So, as we know, the classroom is a part of society. It is giving an exact platform to share or to create an environment for the learner. So, the classroom is a basic platform to create or to bring out with their own creativity levels or the own potential. So, the classroom is a good source, or it is a very convenient place for the imparting information. So, the classroom environment, definitely it is making the learner to learn in a proper way by taking help of the teachers or by taking help of so many technical parts. So, our main concern as language teacher is to develop the ability of our students use language they are learning for the purpose of communication. So, why exactly we are learning the language? What is the importance of language? What is the necessity of the language? So, the language is an opportunity given to the human being to express their ideas in the form of language. So, you are taking help of language for what purpose? To communicate with others. If you want to share anything, if you have any idea, if you have any thought, that should be, if you have any emotion or if you have any feeling, that should be shared with others. So, for sake of that, you are taking help of language for the communication part. So, our main concern of the language teacher is to develop the ability of our student to use language they are learning for the purpose of communication. So, learning the language is not only for writing of the examination or speaking or learning in the classroom, but that should be implemented in their day to day life. Then only the language will become as a perfect one, then only it will become as a skill. As we already discussed, the language learning is also a skill, like how the swimming and how the cycling will be. Once you practice daily, automatically it is going to become as a habit. So, first of all, the learner should know the purpose of the communication. So, to make the learner to speak out the words, we have to follow certain factors. So, the factors affecting good speaking abilities are oral communication is a way, it is a two-way process between speaker and learner. So, here we require two-way process, that is speaker and the learner. So, by involving the productive skills of speaking and the receptive skills of understanding. So, this speaking is considered as the productive skill, whereas coming to the listening is considered as the passive skill, receptive skill. So, the oral communication is a two-way process, it is in between speaker and the learner. So, here we are involving the productive skills of speaking and receptive skills of understanding. So, when the two people are engaged in talking to each other, we can make like some generalization. For example, if they were two persons were standing over there, so definitely they are talking something. So, as a third person, you can expect that exactly they are going to speaking something, means we are in a position to know that he or she want to speak something. So, that is our imagination. So, he or she want to speak something. And the next part we are talking about has some message to convey. So, if the two persons were in a position to speak out, definitely we are thinking that there is some message. So, that message should be conveyed to others. For sake of that, they both were talking each other, they both were speaking to each other. And the next one is select words from his or her own language. So, for example, if I want to speak something about on one topic, definitely I have my own words. So, whatever I understood from others, whatever I heard from others, whatever I listened from others, definitely as it is I may not present, because again I am going to again I am converting that into my own language or own words. So, based on that, whatever the words I prepared to express with others to speak someone, I am having my own words. Next one is select appropriate sentences. So, based on these words, I must be in a position to give clarity what exactly I want to speak, what exactly the message I want to give to the receiver. So, here I am going to frame my own sentences on my own. So, the speaking skill or consider as these are the oral skills. So, the main goal of teaching the skills of speaking is to develop oral fluency. So, by continuously speaking, practice speaking is making the fluency of the oral, especially we are talking about the English language. So, the main goal of teaching skills of speaking is to develop oral fluency. So, the oral fluency will come only through the practice. It is like a skill. Practicing daily make the individual to speak oral with a fluency. Then only they are coming to know how to pronounce a word and how to produce the word and how to frame the sentences and what type of words we have to use. These all will be knowing when we have an oral fluency. Next one, it is the ability to express oneself intelligibly, reasonably, accurately and without undue hesitation. So, if you are in the stage of learning English language, we are going to commit so many mistakes. As a human being, nobody is not going to perfect with anything. So, if it is getting perfection is based on the practice of the individual only. So, you have an intention to speak within a proper wording, proper stress, pause and intonation, and you are expecting fluency of speaking. So, for this what you are doing, just you have to focus on your speaking skill without having any hesitation. So, if I speak the word not in a proper way, they may laugh at me. Am I pronouncing the word in a proper way or not? So, these all we have to remove our mind, then only you are going to have the clarity or fluency over the speaking skill of language, English language. So, once we have that phobia, if I am not speaking in a proper way, they may not receive in a proper way, otherwise they are not in a position to understand. So, these negative thought is not going to make fluency in the speaking. So, we have to remove our hesitation while improving the speaking skill. So, it is nothing but the ability to express oneself with the reasonably, accurately and without having any hesitation. Then only the listener or the learner is going to become as a good speaker. Looking into the sub skills of speaking, so as per John Munby, he talked about the articulation of sounds in isolation, articulation of sounds in connected speech, articulation of stress pattern within words. Speak relevantly and clearly, should have a stock of vocabulary and accuracy of speech, adjust speech according to audience, should speak by applying the basic rules of grammar. So, these are the major sub skills of speaking. So, articulation, the word should be pronounced in a proper way. How exactly word should be pronounced, that articulation should be very clear, then only we are going to give proper sound to that. So, these are the areas: articulation of sounds in isolation, articulation of sounds in connected speech. How you are going to connect words to speak out, articulation of stress pattern within words. So, by talking to someone, how you have to pronounce the word, that should be very clear, and then only the listener will understand in a proper way. So, and the next point talking about the speak relevantly and clearly. Exactly what you want to speak, that should be very clear, and exactly what topic you want to speak, that should be relevant to the topic. So, whatever you are going to speak, that should be relevantly and clearly should be to the listener. Should have a stock of vocabulary and accuracy of speech. While you are going to talk about some subject, you need proper vocabulary as well as the accuracy of speech. Then only the listener will concentrate on you, then only the listener will focus on you. If there is no proper vocabulary or accuracy of speech, definitely there will be a communication gap. So, what exactly you want to say to the listener? So, the communication gap will be taken place. So, there will be a barrier because the accuracy of the subject is not there, the stock of vocabulary is missing. So, that it is having impact on the speech. Next one, adjust speech according to the audience. For example, if you want to speak within a few students, definitely you have your own idea. Your voice should be based on that, should be reached to the audience. So, if you are going to speak in a mass, if the number of individuals are more, if there is a lot of crowd, so automatically your speech should be as per the audience expectations. Should speak by applying the basic rules of grammar. So, already we discussed, once we want to get perfection with the grammar, we have to look into intensive and extensive patterns. So, here to get perfection with the language, in the initial stage of learning, we are not looking into the grammar part. Once you have command over the English language, yes, definitely I can speak on my own, I can communicate. Then once you have the fluency of speaking English language for the oral fluency, afterwards we have to look into the rules of the grammar. So, what exactly am I going to communicate in the present situation, or am I going to communicate with others with the past incidents, or am I going to speak with them for the future. So, these clarity should be there with the individuals. So, for this we need to looking into the basic rules of the grammar, and the same time we have to look into the person, whether you are going to speak to the second person or whether you are going to speak to the third person, or you are going to speak with one individual or you are going to speak with the group. These all the clarity should be there with the speaker, then only that your speaking efficiency will come out. So, these all the major sub skills as per John Munby was proposed. Purposes like pleasure, survival, academic and professional. So, the first one is talking about the pleasure. So, by looking into so many newspapers or by looking into the textbooks, by looking into so many story books and all those, we are coming to know, means here the books are making us to feel very pleasure. So, making as a habit of reading books, it is making us very pleasure. So, here if you have the habit of reading more number of books, looking into novels or what type of novel or any type of novel or fiction or poetry or whatever it may be, we are coming to know that it is making us a good friend. So, reading habit is very good and it is making very pleasure to the individuals. So next one is why we are looking into the reading part to survive. For example, if you want to know something, what are the changes were happen place in our nature, or what are the developmental activities were taken place in our society, what type of technology was developing, and what type of science and technology is adapting these days, what type of societal changes were taken place, these all will be available through reading newspaper or reading into so many text. So why we are looking into this? To survive. So we are in a society, so you must get some recognition in the society, to you have to survive. So to survive in the society, you have to know each and every part, what are the developmental activities were taken place in a society. So here the reading part is talking about, one is for pleasure. So it is making us all the way very comfortable by reading the books. So once you have the habit of reading book, definitely you are having the source of knowledge, lot of content is with the individual. So this is making us to build a lot of confidence. So here the reading is for one purpose, is which is creating us the pleasure. So once you have the habit of reading book, definitely it is going to make our life as a peaceful. So no other thoughts will be there in the mind, because we have the good friend, that is book. So these books are considered as a good friends for us. And even we have the habit of reading books, definitely you may not feel any burden with bore, or you may not feel any inconvenient to towards the day or whatever it may be. Coming to the survival part, so we have to look into notices, or we have to look into the newspapers and all those, because we are the social human beings, we have the interaction with the society. As an individual, we must get some recognition in the society. So to survive in the society, we have to know so many things. So these all available only through reading the books. And the next one, we have to look into the textbooks for the academic part. If you are doing any course, as from childhood onwards, we have the following certain rules and regulations of following the academics. So to improve our academic standards, we have to look into the so many textbooks. So not only the textbooks, they are giving proper information for us, which is focusing on the academic, as well as we have to look into the additional information which is available in the textbooks, or you are depending on the library, you are depending on the newspaper, or you are depending on the articles or journals and the newspaper. So these are making us to have the knowledge worthful. And the next one, professional. So in the society, we have so many professionals. So these professionals will have the knowledge of thorough over their profession. So to get thorough over their profession, they have to concentrate on a number of books, especially the libraries. It is a source of knowledge. So in this library, we are having enough information for the professionals. Whereas coming to the technology part, nowadays we are totally depending on the internet part. So whatever the information we required, immediately we are focusing on the internet. So this internet is also giving lot of information for the professionals. So once the internet is available with us, so the reading of book habit will come down. So because immediately the internet is with us, so that immediately we are depending on that. If you want a habit of going to library, I think the library may not very near to you, may not convenient to you at the same time. So whenever we have the chance to visit the library, at that time you are taking help of library. So these are the four major processes or the purposes for we are looking into the reading part. So now just we have to conclude this by this two skills of basic. The first one is talking about the listening and speaking skill. So looking into this, first of all, we should be perfect with the English language, or first of all, we must be in a position to have the idea over the objectives. Why we are teaching to the students of English language, especially what are the major aims teaching to the English language. So here the objective of teaching English language is talking about a thing aimed at exactly what you want to say. As a English teacher, intention is you have to make the student to speak out in English, and they have to represent, which may be in the form of writing part. So these parts should be aimed at the teaching English language for the teacher. So here the main objective is talking about something that you plan to do or you want to achieve. So your achievement for the classroom of teaching English is make all the student to speak out, make all the student to write. That is your achievement. Coming to the next one is talking about a thing which you want to aim, exactly what you want to achieve. You have your intention is, as an English teacher intention, you have to make all the student to speak out on that particular topic or what you taught on that particular day. So we have to look into for the class period of 45 minutes as a language teacher, just you have to teach to the students only for the 20 minutes. So remaining 25 minutes is based on the activities. So these 25 minutes that should be related to whatever you taught for the past 20 minutes. So this is possible only through the activity base. So when the teacher is in a position to make the student to learn the language, then only the language class will be become as enjoyable classroom and learning the language with a joyful environment. So to make the teacher as more convenient with making the student to speak out in a proper way, the maximum activity should be provided in the classroom. So here already we talk about the two basic skills, that is listening and speaking. So listening, just make the student to listen n number of stories. These listening to so many stories, automatically the attention will be paid towards the listening. So this is going to be helpful and to become as a good listener. So once they are becoming as a good listener, once they are going to understand the listener, definitely they are going to express or definitely they are going to speak out. So coming to the next one, as a English teacher we have so many problems because India is a multilingual country. So every individual is having their own mother tongue. So for the mother tongue especially we are not making them to speak, but the home environment or the surroundings making them to speak the mother tongue or learning the mother tongue. So whereas coming to the English language, so we have to take certain instructions or we have to face certain problems to make the English classroom as very effective one. So this is the total responsibility of the classroom English language teacher. These 45 minutes of the classroom, maximum the teacher has to focus on the student to speak the words in English. At the same time the communication should be in English, so that it is making the student to at least try to speak out. So anyway out of the except that English period the students are using their mother tongue, but these 45 minutes of class should make the individual to speak. So then only they are going to use that English terminology or the words for the next classes. So as a English teacher they have to stick on to that, speaking the students in English, especially in the English class. And sometimes while explaining also we have to take the help of mother tongue. Once the student become as a habitual to the mother tongue, even in an English classroom also, automatically they won't feel that I have to learn English. So they won't feel or they won't know the seriousness of the English language. So it is a maximum the teacher has to speak and has to communicate in English by giving more number of examples. So these examples are making the individuals to speak, at least they try to speak out. So and let them practice. So let them practice outside the English classroom. Just they want to speak with friends, try to make them to speak in English. And the same time you can make as an activity like from day one onwards, just make them to speak, at least list out the words, how many English words I spoke today. Just make a list in a simple form like and, so, myself, my name is, these all the simple words. Automatically this is making or this is going to build up a confidence in the student. So this confidential level is going to learn more and more, and the same time this is making the English teacher very comfortable to the classroom situation. So these all the very essential important points which we have to focus or which were focused on the development of the language skills. So those are listening and the speaking skills. So and one more thing for the English teacher, so maximum they have to encourage the student by providing story books. So these books are making the individual to feel very pleasure by looking into the storybooks. They feel very pleasure. Already in the just we discussed about for the different purposes we are looking into the books. The one is pleasure. So just we look into the storybooks. Definitely the student feel very happy to learn more and more books. Just in the initial stages the content should be very less and the picture should be very effective one. So later on, based on their graduation, based on their level, they have to look into the content worth by decreasing the size of the picture and increasing the content. So in the same time, ultimate all the storybook should have some theme, some moral should be there, some ethics should be there. So these ways we are making them not only perfection with the English language skills of reading, it is making to learn morality of the story. So based on that morality, they are going to apply that in their day to day life. So here we are talking about not only making the student or the academics perfection, simultaneously we have to make them towards the oral, moral and the ethical values. So value oriented education. So by making the student to sit for hours together and giving values, ethics and aesthetic sense, it is not possible. Just as a part of their course, as a part of day to day life, we have to make them or we have to encourage them to follow these ethical and moral values. The best source to encourage the student for these speaking and listening part, we have to teach them more number of stories and let them speak out what they learn and what they listen. So we have to give an opportunity to speak out. So in general the student have the phobia of English language, that will be come out only when the teacher had given proper motivation. So all the time the teacher has to encourage the student to speak out in English. So thus positiveness is going to make the student to learn English language in a proper way. So the basic thing is encouragement is very essential, so that automatically the mindset of the individual towards the learning English language will come out. So these mindset will become as a positive in learning the English language.